The city never slept, but tonight it held its breath. From the 52nd floor of Steel Corporation's headquarters, the skyline glittered with ruthless brilliance, towers of glass and steel reflecting a world that belonged to the powerful. And at the very heart of it sat Adrian Steele, the man everyone feared, envied, and obeyed. Until now. Mr. Steele. Panic laced the voices of his executives as Adrian staggered across the boardroom. His hand pressed against his chest, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The man who had built an empire with icy precision was crumbling in front of them. Chairs screeched back. Phones lit up. Someone shouted for an ambulance. But through the chaos, no one dared touch him. No one dared catch him as his knees buckled.
He fell.
The sound was sharp, final, like the shattering of glass. For a heartbeat, the room was silent. Then pandemonium erupted. Doctors were rushed in. Private medics swarmed. The world's finest equipment beeped, flashed, and whirred around him. Yet with every attempt, Adrian's pulse grew weaker, his skin paler. The titan of Steel Corporation was dying, and no amount of money, power, or loyalty could save him. On the other side of the city, far from the gleam of high-rises, Elena huddled beneath a crumbling overpass. The night wind bit through her thin jacket, and hunger gnawed at her stomach. She pressed her knees to her chest, staring at the glow of the skyline. That world was not hers. It never had been. She had lost everything, her family, her home, even the dignity of a name whispered with warmth. All she had left was survival. "Spare some change," she whispered as footsteps passed, but no one stopped. People looked past her as though she were invisible. And maybe she was. Her eyelids drooped, exhaustion heavy, when the roar of engines shattered the quiet. A convoy of black cars tore through the streets, stopping outside the luxury hospital nearby. Doors flew open. Men in suits rushed inside, carrying something, a stretcher, a body. Elena blinked, drawn closer despite herself. Curiosity was a dangerous thing, but something pulled her forward, step by hesitant step, until she reached the edge of the glowing lobby. The words reached her ears in fragments. CEO Steele, heart failure. Not responding, blood compatibility issue. We're losing him. Elena froze. CEO Steele? She had heard his name whispered in fear across the city. Power incarnate. A man untouchable. And yet dying? She shouldn't care. She should turn away. But the urgency in their voices snared her. And then, his blood type is too rare. We can't find a match, a nurse cried. Something inside Elena lurched. Rare blood type. Her own cursed rarity that had made even hospitals turn her away, muttering about cost and complication. Her fingers trembled. This man, this untouchable king, needed the one thing she had. The one thing that had never once been of value in her own life.
She didn't think.
She just moved. I'll do it. Her voice cracked through the chaos. Heads whipped toward her. Doctors blinked, startled. A guard barked. Who are you? Get her out. No. Elena's voice cut sharper this time, though her body shook. Test me. I'm a match. I know I am. For a moment, silence fell. Then suspicion narrowed their eyes. She's nobody, one muttered. But desperation clawed louder than doubt. Test her, the lead doctor ordered.
Now.
Minutes bled into eternity. Elena sat on the cold metal chair outside the emergency ward, her heart hammering. The doctor returned, his face pale, but alight with urgency. She's a perfect match. Prep her now. The words crashed over her like thunder. Before she could process, gloved hands guided her into a sterile room. Tubes, needles, machines, it was overwhelming. Fear coiled in her chest. What if she fainted? What if she didn't make it? But then she saw him. Adrian Steele lay motionless on the table, his face ghostly pale, lips tinged blue. He looked less like a man, and more like marble carved for a tomb. The world's most powerful man, fragile, human, dying. Her breath caught. Without her, he would be gone. The doctor's voice was brisk. Are you ready? This may be dangerous given your malnourished condition. Elena closed her eyes. She had nothing. No home. No future. No one waiting for her. If her life could mean something, even for a stranger, wasn't that better than vanishing unseen? "I'm ready," she whispered. As the needle slid into her arm, warmth drained from her body. Her vision blurred, but she held on to one thought. Maybe, just maybe, this act would prove she existed. Somewhere in the haze, a faint beeping grew stronger. The rhythm of a heart fighting back. She had given him her blood. She had given him her strength. And in that moment, though she didn't know it yet, she had also stolen his heart. When Elena's eyes fluttered open hours later, she was too weak to move. But through the glass pane, she saw him stir. Adrian Steele, once lost to death, drawing breath again. And his first glance, disoriented and raw, was toward her. Their fates had just collided. The steady rhythm of the heart monitor filled the hospital suite like the ticking of fate itself. Every beat meant life had returned to Adrian Steele, the man who was never supposed to fall, never supposed to be vulnerable. But tonight, the Empire's Titan was breathing because of a girl no one even noticed before. Elena stirred against the stiff sheets of the adjoining patient bed. Her body felt hollow, drained, but her mind throbbed with one question: why did I do it? The answer was still unclear. Yet the ache in her veins reminded her of the truth. Her blood now ran through his. She could never take it back. The door hissed open. "Mr. Steele, you're awake." The chief physician rushed forward, trailed by a cluster of executives in sharp suits. Their relief quickly shifted into calculation, eyes darting between Adrian's pale figure on the bed and Elena half hidden behind the curtain. Adrian's voice was low, gravelly, but sharp enough to command silence. "Who saved me?" The physician hesitated. A glance flicked toward the girl. Adrian followed it. His gaze landed on her, piercing despite his weakness. For a moment, the world stilled. The man who had clawed his way to power, who trusted no one, who kept his empire fortified with walls of steel, was staring at a homeless girl with tangled hair and trembling hands. Elena shifted uncomfortably under the weight of that gaze. Heat rushed to her cheeks, though her body was still cold from the transfusion. "She's nobody, sir," one of the executives cut in quickly. "A vagrant from the street."
She happened to be a match.
"We'll remove her immediately." "Stop." The words sliced through the room like a blade. Adrian's hand, still weak, lifted slightly from the sheets. His eyes never left Elena's. "She is not nobody. She gave me what no one else could, my life." The executives exchanged uneasy glances. One dared to protest. "Mr. Steele, with respect, she has no background, no record. We can't verify." "Then verify," Adrian snapped, his authority flickering back like lightning despite his frailty.
"Do it."
"Thoroughly. But she stays." Elena's breath caught. "Stays? Why would he want her here? She wasn't part of his world. She shouldn't be anywhere near it." Yet the look in his eyes held no doubt. Only certainty. When the others reluctantly left, silence thickened between them. Adrian's gaze softened, though his features remained sculpted in steel. "You gave me your blood." Elena swallowed. It was nothing. His lips curved into a faint, humorless smile. "Nothing? You nearly fainted from the loss. You risked your life for a stranger." "You weren't a stranger," she whispered before she could stop herself. "Everyone knows Adrian Steele." "But no one knows the man," he murmured. The words startled her. She looked at him properly, then, the lines of fatigue beneath his eyes, the fragility in his breath, the shadow of loneliness even power couldn't erase. For the first time, she saw not the CEO, but a man stripped bare by mortality. And he saw not a beggar girl, but the only person who had touched his life without expecting anything in return. Elena shifted, trying to break the spell. "You don't owe me anything. Once I'm discharged, I'll leave. You'll never see me again." Adrian's expression darkened, sudden and sharp. "Don't say that." Her eyes widened. His voice was low, almost raw. "Everyone around me takes. You gave. That makes you dangerous, Elena." Because now, his eyes closed briefly, the weight of the admission heavy. Now I can't ignore you. Her heart skipped. Dangerous? To him? Or to herself? Before she could ask, the door burst open again, this time with more force. A man in a pristine suit stormed in, face hard. Adrian's cousin, Vincent Steele, a board member with ambition in his veins. Cousin, Vincent said coldly, the company is in chaos. And you're wasting time with her? His glare landed on Elena like poison. Get rid of her. She's a liability. Elena stiffened, her instincts screaming that Vincent wasn't just family, he was an enemy. Adrian's eyes opened slowly, and his voice, though weak, held lethal precision. Touch her, Vincent, and you'll find out exactly how alive I am. The air snapped with tension. Elena felt the weight of two worlds colliding, power and vulnerability, loyalty and betrayal. Vincent's lips curled, but he bowed slightly. As you wish, cousin. But don't say I didn't warn you. He left with the promise of war in his eyes. Elena's pulse thundered. She turned back to Adrian. Why defend me?
You don't even know me.
Adrian's gaze locked on hers, unwavering. I know enough. You saved me when everyone else failed. That makes you mine. Her breath caught, torn between fear and something she couldn't name. And in that moment, as the city's lights flickered against the glass walls, she realized this was only the beginning. She had saved his life, but in doing so, she had stepped into his world, one that could destroy her. Cliffhanger. Adrian claims Elena as his, while his cousin Vincent marks her as a threat, pulling her into a dangerous war of power, love, and survival. The convoy of sleek black cars cut through the night like predators, their tinted windows reflecting the city lights. Elena sat rigid in the back seat of the lead car, sandwiched between two silent bodyguards. Her palms itched, her throat dry. She had no right to be here, no place in the world of leather seats, whispered codes, and men who carried weapons beneath tailored suits. Yet here she was, because Adrian Steele had ordered it. Through the partition window, she caught glimpses of him reclined in the opposite seat. His face was still pale, his movements restrained, but even weakened, his presence filled the space. His sharp gaze flicked toward her now and then, as though reminding her she wasn't a passenger, she was under his watch. Finally, she broke the silence. You didn't have to do this. Adrian's eyes narrowed. Do what? Drag me into your world. I saved your life, yes. But now I just want mine back. I can't live in your glass towers. He leaned forward, his voice low, edged with steel. Elena, you've already stepped into my world. Whether you like it or not, you're in danger now. Vincent saw you. Others will too. If you walk out of here, you won't survive the night. Her stomach dropped. He wasn't exaggerating. She had seen the look in Vincent's eyes, the kind of greed and venom that didn't forgive miracles it couldn't control. The convoy slowed. Iron gates loomed ahead, opening to reveal a sprawling estate that looked less like a home and more like a fortress. Walls of glass and marble rose into the night, surrounded by manicured gardens lit by floodlights. Security cameras pivoted like watchful eyes. Elena pressed closer to the window, her breath fogging the glass. This isn't a house. It's a cage. Inside, the mansion was worse. Cold marble floors echoed beneath her hesitant steps. Crystal chandeliers glowed above, their light refracting into fragments across the polished walls. Everything screamed of wealth, but none of it felt alive. Show her to the east wing. Adrian ordered a servant. Elena spun on him. Wait, you're keeping me here? He met her stare, unflinching. Yes. Until I know you're safe. I don't need your protection. The words came out sharper than intended, fueled by fear. I've survived on the streets for years. I don't belong in your prison of glass. Adrian's jaw tightened. He took a careful step closer, his body betraying weakness, but his presence overpowering. You call it a prison. I call it the only place where Vincent can't reach you. His voice dropped, and for a fleeting moment, Vulnerability cracked through the steel. I almost died, Elena. Do you think I'll let the one person who pulled me back into this world walk out, only to be destroyed by mine? Her breath caught. The sincerity in his tone unsettled her more than his authority ever could. She whispered, "You don't even know me." His gaze burned. "Then let me." The servant led her to a vast suite, bigger than any place Elena had ever set foot in. A bed with silk sheets, a balcony overlooking the glittering city, even a wardrobe already filled with clothes her size. It was suffocating in its generosity. When the door shut, Elena pressed her back against it, fighting the swirl in her chest. Fear, gratitude, anger, none of it made sense. She had asked for nothing, yet now she owed him everything. And Adrian Steele was not a man you could owe without consequences. Hours later, she stood on the balcony, city lights flickering like dying stars. The night air was cold, biting, reminding her of the streets she once called home. A faint sound behind her made her turn. Adrian stood in the doorway, leaning on his cane, his frame silhouetted against the soft glow of the hall light. He should have been resting, but instead his eyes were on her, piercing, searching. "You're not sleeping," he said quietly. "Neither are you." He approached slowly, each step deliberate. When he reached her side, they both looked out at the skyline, two souls from opposite worlds, bound by blood. "Elena," he said finally, his voice stripped of its armor, "I don't know why fate dragged you into my war.
But it did.
And now, I can't let you go." Her heart stumbled. She opened her mouth to argue, but his hand brushed against hers on the railing, just a touch, tentative, yet electric. The air between them thickened, charged with something she didn't dare name. Before she could pull away, the mansion's alarms blared, sharp, jarring. Guards shouted from the halls. Adrian's head snapped toward the noise, his face darkening. "They've found us." Elena's blood ran cold. Sparkle's cliffhanger. Just as Elena begins to realize Adrian's pull on her, the mansion is breached, danger crashing into the fragile bond forming between them. The night pressed heavy against the tall glass windows of the CEO's penthouse, the city lights sprawling beneath like 1,000 watchful eyes. Yet inside the room, silence held dominion. Only the faint beeping of machines and the steady hum of oxygen reminded them both that life, fragile, borrowed, yet undeniable, still clung to Adrian Blackwell. Elena sat by his bed, her hands folded tight, as if afraid the world might steal him back if she loosened her grip. He had stirred earlier, his voice a mere rasp, her name barely escaping his lips. But even that whisper had sent a storm through her heart. She glanced at him now, studying his face under the dim glow of a bedside lamp.
Strong.
Sharp. Yet for the first time, she saw not the infamous CEO everyone feared, but a man stripped bare, fragile, human. And against all logic, her heart ached. Her inner voice screamed, "What are you doing here? You don't belong in his world." But another voice, quieter, deeper, murmured back, "He's alive because of you." "Maybe you do." The door creaked open. Adrian's trusted aide, Marcus, stepped inside, his usually composed face lined with unease. "Elena," he said softly, "you should rest. I'll keep watch." She shook her head, firm despite the exhaustion burning behind her eyes. "If I leave, he'll think no one's here when he wakes again. I can't. I won't let him feel that." Marcus hesitated, studying her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. "You realize he doesn't let anyone near him, not even family. Yet you." Her lips tightened. "I didn't choose this. Neither did he. But fate doesn't ask permission." Before Marcus could respond, a low groan broke the air. Elena shot up, her chair scraping against the floor. Adrian's fingers twitched, his brow furrowed as though fighting invisible chains. "Elena," his voice was ragged, deeper now, pained. She rushed to his side, her trembling hand hovering over his. "I'm here. You're safe." His eyes fluttered open. Those storm-gray eyes that had cowed boardrooms now looked at her with raw vulnerability. For a moment, he simply stared, as if trying to make sense of her presence. Then, barely audible, he whispered, Why would you save me?" Her throat tightened. "Because no one else could. Because I couldn't stand watching you slip away." His gaze searched hers, as if weighing truth against fear. A weak smirk tugged at his lips, bitter and self-mocking. "You gave up your blood for me. And now you're bound to a man whose heart hasn't known warmth for years." Tears burned her eyes, but she refused to look away. "Then maybe it's time your heart remembered." The silence that followed was heavy, charged. His breath hitched, his hand shifting, slow, deliberate, until his fingers grazed hers. A fragile touch, but it sent a rush of heat through her veins, undoing every wall she thought she had. But just as quickly, the moment shattered. Marcus cleared his throat sharply. "Mr. Blackwell, the doctors warned you not to speak too much." Adrian's eyes darkened, his CEO mask slipping back into place even as weakness pulled at him. "Leave us," he ordered, voice steadier than it had any right to be. Marcus froze. He had never seen Adrian look at anyone the way he looked at Elena now. Reluctantly, he bowed his head and left, shutting the door with a click. Elena swallowed, her chest tight. "You shouldn't push yourself. Tell me your name." His interruption was soft, yet commanding. She blinked. "Elena. Elena Cruz." "Elena," he repeated it as if testing how it felt on his tongue, how it fit against his soul. Then his eyes locked onto hers, piercing and unyielding despite his frailty. "Don't leave me." Her breath caught. The plea wasn't a demand, not the bark of a CEO used to obedience. It was raw, desperate, human. "I won't," she whispered. "Not as long as you need me." And in that instant, something unspoken passed between them, a bond forged not by choice, but by sacrifice. Yet just as warmth crept into the room, the heart monitor spiked violently. Adrian gasped, his hand clutching hers with sudden, fierce strength. "Elena," his voice broke as his body convulsed, alarm shrieking. "Help," she cried, panic ripping through her as doctors stormed in, shoving her back. Her hands shook, smeared still with the ghost of his touch, her ears ringing with the word he'd uttered before the chaos consumed him. "Elena." The chapter ended not with silence, but with the sound of her name echoing through the walls, binding her fate tighter to his than ever before. The shrill wail of machines still echoed in Elena's ears long after the doctors had rushed in, long after Adrian's body had steadied under their hands. She sat outside his private suite now, her fingers locked together so tightly they hurt. He almost slipped away again. The thought tore through her like glass. She had promised she wouldn't leave, but what if fate didn't care about promises? The double doors opened. Marcus stepped out, his face unreadable.
"He's stabilized," he said.
"For now." Elena exhaled a shaky breath, but Marcus wasn't finished. His eyes narrowed slightly, as though weighing invisible scales. "Miss Cruz, the board is circling like vultures. If Mr. Blackwell appears weak for too long, they'll move to strip him of power." Her stomach twisted. She barely knew the world Adrian belonged to, yet even from the shadows, she could feel the sharpness of it. Contracts sharper than knives, smiles more dangerous than bullets. "And if they succeed?" she asked. Marcus's jaw tightened. "They'll carve up everything he built. His empire, his reputation, even his name. They'll destroy him before he has a chance to recover." The thought of Adrian, so strong in her eyes, so commanding even in his weakness, reduced to nothing, left her breathless. She clenched her fists. Then he can't be left alone. Not in that room. Not anywhere. Marcus studied her again, suspicion and reluctant admiration flickering across his face. "You talk as though you've known him for years. Why risk yourself for a man like him?" Her voice broke, but her resolve did not. "Because when he said my name, it wasn't the CEO speaking. It was a man fighting to hold on. And no one should have to fight alone." The silence between them was broken by the sharp echo of footsteps. A tall woman entered the hall, her heels striking marble with deliberate precision. She was all elegance, diamond earrings, blood-red lips, a tailored suit that screamed power. "Is it true?" she demanded, eyes flashing. Adrian is still alive? Marcus stiffened. Ms. Langford, this isn't the time. But Elena had already caught the venom in her tone, the hunger lurking behind her polished mask. The woman's gaze swept over Elena, pausing with thinly veiled disdain. And who, she sneered, is this? Before Elena could answer, Marcus spoke. Elena Cruz. She played a role in Mr. Blackwell's survival. The woman's brows arched high. This girl? Her laugh was brittle, cruel. Adrian Blackwell survived surgeries, betrayals, even assassination attempts, and now I'm supposed to believe a street girl is his savior? Elena's cheeks burned, but she stood straighter, refusing to shrink under the woman's scorn. Believe what you want. I didn't save him for your approval. The woman's eyes narrowed dangerously. Careful, little girl. You're standing in a world that chews up weaklings and spits out their bones. Stay in your lane. She turned sharply to Marcus. Tell the board he won't be attending tomorrow's meeting. If he can't even stand, they'll take action without him. Then, with a final daggered glance at Elena, she swept away, her perfume lingering like poison in the air. Elena's heart pounded. Who was she? Marcus's expression was grim. Victoria Langford, his former fiancée, and one of the board's loudest voices against him. If Adrian falters, she'll be the first to strike. Elena's chest tightened. Enemies outside, enemies inside. Adrian was surrounded by wolves, and she, just a girl who once had nothing, was now standing at the edge of their battlefield. Her thoughts were interrupted when a nurse emerged. He's awake. He's asking for her. Marcus blinked. For Elena? The nurse nodded. Elena's pulse surged. She moved quickly, almost running to the door, her hand shaking as she pushed it open. Inside, Adrian sat propped against pillows, pale but unmistakably alive. His gaze snapped to her the moment she entered, as though she were the only one who could anchor him. You stayed, he said hoarsely. Her throat tightened. I told you I would. Something flickered in his eyes. Relief, disbelief, and something deeper he couldn't quite name. He reached out a trembling hand, and she crossed the room, letting her fingers slip into his. His grip was weak, but it held more force over her heart than anything she'd ever known. Elena, he whispered, voice low but steady. Don't trust anyone. Not Marcus, not the board, not even my so-called family. They'll use you to get to me. She shook her head fiercely. Let them try. I won't let anyone hurt you again. For the first time, his mask cracked, and beneath the ruthless CEO, she saw a man stripped raw, tired, wounded, but clinging to her like she was the last truth in a world built on lies. Then you'll need to be stronger than you've ever been, Adrian murmured. Because tonight, the war begins. His words hung heavy in the air, and Elena knew, whatever fragile thread tied their fates together, it was about to be tested in ways neither of them could imagine. The storm outside mirrored the one inside Adrian Blackwell's penthouse. Rain lashed the floor-to-ceiling windows, and thunder cracked like the heavens themselves were at war. Inside, the board meeting had just ended. Voices had risen, threats had been made, and masks of civility had slipped into raw hostility. Adrian sat in his wheelchair near the window, his sharp suit doing little to disguise the shadows under his eyes. Every move still hurt, but weakness was something he refused to show, at least not to them. Now, only Elena remained. She stood by the table, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. She had seen men with knives in alleyways, but nothing compared to the blade-sharp cruelty of Adrian's enemies in suits. They want you destroyed, she whispered, almost afraid the walls would carry her words back to those who had just left. Adrian gave a humorless laugh. They've wanted that for years. I just made it easier for them by nearly dying. His gaze shifted toward her, dark but softened by something he didn't let the board glimpse. But you saw them, didn't you? How quickly they turned. Wolves in designer ties. Elena's heart twisted. Then you can't fight them alone. He wheeled toward her, his movements slow but deliberate. And what do you suggest? That I hand the empire I bled for over to vultures? That I let them take everything my father built and twist it into their playground. His voice cracked at the edges, and Elena saw through the armor, saw the boy behind the billionaire, the man who had lost too much already. She stepped forward, her hand brushing his. "No," she said firmly. "I'm saying, let me fight with you." His eyes searched hers, disbelief and hunger warring inside him. She was no strategist, no board member, no power broker, just a girl who once slept under bridges. But she had something none of them did, loyalty that didn't come with a contract. "Why?" he asked, his tone raw, almost broken. "Why risk yourself for me?" Elena swallowed hard, the truth clawing out of her chest. "Because when you were slipping away, I couldn't let you go. And now that you're alive, I can't stand aside while they tear you apart." For a heartbeat, silence stretched between them. Then Adrian reached up, his fingers trembling as they cupped her face. The fire in his gaze dimmed into something almost unbearable in its vulnerability. "You don't understand, Elena," he whispered. "The moment you gave me your blood, you tied yourself to my enemies. To my world. They'll come after you now, not because of who you are, but because of what you mean to me." Her breath caught. "And what do I mean to you?" Adrian's lips parted, but the words didn't come. His pride warred with his heart, his CEO instincts battling the raw, human ache she ignited in him. He leaned closer, his forehead brushing hers, and for a moment Elena swore the world had narrowed to the space between their lips.
Bang!
The penthouse door slammed open. Marcus stumbled in, breathless, his face pale. "Sir, you need to see this." He held out his phone. On the screen was a breaking news alert. CEO Adrian Blackwell declared unfit. Emergency vote to remove him tomorrow. Beneath the headline was a leaked image. Adrian in his hospital bed, pale, unconscious, with Elena's hand clasped in his. Elena froze. "How?" "They're painting you as a distraction," Marcus said grimly. "As the homeless girl who seduced him in his weakest moment. They'll claim you're manipulating him for money." Adrian's jaw tightened, fury simmering beneath his composure. His grip on Elena's hand hardened. "They want to destroy me," he said, voice low and dangerous. "But if they touch you," his eyes blazed, locking onto hers with a vow that was both promise and warning, "I will burn their empire to the ground." Elena's heart pounded. For the first time, she saw not just the CEO, not just the man she saved, but the storm he truly was. And she realized with a shiver of fear and desire that she was already standing in its center.